يلا شباب عشان نبدأ. نرنم مع بعض. واحد، اتنين، تلاتة ونبدأ. واحد، اتنين، تلاتة. لا لا تتركني وحدي يا راعي الأمين، قدني أنت يا ربي وسر معي يا معين. لا لا تتركني وحدي يا راعي الأمين، قدني أنت يا ربي وسر معي يا معين. أنا يا رب دونك لا شيء أبدا، أنا يا رب دونك لا شيء أبدا، فامسك يميني ربي واهديني في طريقي دائما، فامسك يميني ربي واهديني في طريقي دائما. لا لا تتركني وحدي في وسط الظلام، اجعل وجهك يقودني يا رب للسلام. لا لا تتركني وحدي في وسط الظلام، اجعل وجهك يقودني يا ربي للسلام. أنا يا رب دونك لا شيء أبدا، أنا يا رب دونك لا شيء أبدا، فامسك يميني ربي واهديني في طريقي دائما، فامسك ربي واهديني في طريقي دائما. لا لا تتركني وحدي بل اسمع صلاتي، وقف أنت بجنبي ربي كل حياتي. لا لا تتركني وحدي بل اسمع صلاتي، وقف أنت بجنبي ربي كل حياتي. أنا يا رب دونك لا شيء أبدا، أنا يا رب دونك دونك لا شيء أبدا. فامسك يميني ربي واهديني في طريقي دائما. فامسك ربي واهديني في طريقي دائما. لا تتركني وحدي من أجل خطاياي، بل سامحني يا ربي إن زلت قدماي. لا تتركني وحدي من أجل خطاياي، بل سامحني يا ربي إن زلت قدماي. أنا يا رب دونك لا شيء أبدا. أنا يا رب دونك لا شيء أبدا. فامسك يميني ربي واهديني في طريقي دائما. فامسك يميني ربي واهديني في طريقي دائما. تعيشوا وترنموا.
How are you all doing? في ناس ما سمعتش الكلام. في ناس مش قاعدة في group. Okay? Please join a group. Okay? Please join a group. But some people follow the directions. Yes. It's okay أسامحكم. It's okay. I'm just kidding. If you don't want to join a group, I mean, join a group يعني. خليكم معنا. Yeah, okay. But thank you for joining a group. And if you are in a group of like 2 people or 3 people, and you want to join another group, you can. But if you want to stay in a small group, that's good too. Okay? Okay. Thank you all. Tina, can you close the door? Hi, everyone. How are you doing today? Thank you for coming. Thank you for having me. My name is Maggie Ibrahim. I'm here today to talk about something you asked me to talk about, actually. So I came in March of this year, and I did a small talk about some of the things associated with being a third culture kid, like having 2 cultures. And then I sent a form out recently asking what you would like to hear about next from me. And you wanted to talk about some of these things today. So if you filled out that form and you wanted to talk about something else, please samhoni. It's only 1 hour, so المرة الجاية, okay? All right. So today we're going to talk about the first and second generation immigrant student in school. And I'm going to talk about some things that you as parents should consider, all right? And Hiba is my wonderful translator today. عشان العربي بتاعي يعني like 30%, okay? All right. So these are our objectives. So we're going to talk about how our children's identities as first and second generation immigrants is going to affect their experience in school every day. Whether they know it or not, or whether you like it or not, really. Like, that's just what it is. And we're going to talk about some strategies that empower us, because I'm big on empowerment, empower us as parents, and they're going to help our kids grow academically, but they're also going to help our kids grow social emotionally, all right? I will talk a little bit about my background in just 1 second, but Hiba, do you want to?
Yeah, sure.
And there's like 13 slides if you want to pace yourself according to that.
Okay. We can go when you tell me. This is a good section to stop. هنتكلم النهارده عن الأهداف، نفهم عن هوية أطفالنا والفرق بين العيال اللي بتبقى لسه مهاجرة، أول جيل لسه مهاجر، والجيل التاني اللي اتولد هنا ونشأ هنا من الأول، والفرق بين الهويتين بتاعتهم والاختلافات في منظورهم لكل المواقف اليومية، وازاي في اختلاف ما بين المنظور للجيل الأولاني المهاجر الأولاني والجيل التاني من ناحية الهوية. برضو هنتكلم عن ازاي ايه الاستراتيجيات والأساليب اللي بيها ممكن نقدر نتدخل علشان نساعدهم من الناحية الأكاديمية التعليمية، وكمان في ناحية التعليم النفسي الاجتماعي.
So just a little bit about myself. So I have been a member of this church for 29 years, which is really amazing, actually. When I think about it, I get very emotional. So I came to America, and this is the first place that I went to church, and this has been my church since I was 4 years old. Okay, never mind. So it's very special to me to get to do this with you. بصراحة, anytime I talk to any of you, it's like I'm talking to my parents. So Arafu, this is the perspective I'm coming from, okay? I was a high school teacher, and I was a middle school teacher, and now I work in a superintendent's office in a district in Massachusetts. I'm a director, and I also am getting my doctorate in education, and actually my focus of my research is this topic. So just so you know, like, this is not something I'm doing for fun in my spare time. I mean, it is, but this is the focus of all of my work. So just so you know, it's something I'm very passionate about, okay? You don't have to translate it. It's boring, okay? So this is the last session, March 25th. I talked about third culture kids in a one culture class. We talked about why it's important to talk about identity. We talked about why our kids might feel like أنا مش أمريكي وأنا مش مصري. I'm not one of this or this. I'm a third culture. Okay? فاكرين ولا؟ Okay, ماشي. انتوا معايا؟ صحيين؟ محاضرة حلوة. طب thank you. طب كويس. Okay, so we talked about some of those things. All right? Do you want to remind them, or you were there?
I was.
Yeah. It was very fun.
ماجي بتفكركم المرة اللي فاتت لما جت في شهر 3 اتكلمت عن الثقافة الثالثة وعن الفرق بين الاستيعاب الاجتماعي أو المجتمعي والفرق بين ان احنا نخش او نبقى جزء لا يتجزأ من الثقافة اللي موجودة جوه المجتمع الجديد. أهمية ان الواحد يبص على ذاته، يكتشف ذاته، يكتشف الايدنتيتي بتاعته او الهوية الشخصية بتاعته. واخر حاجة كانت هي زي ما بقول الثقافة الثالثة اللي هي الاندماج بتاعة كل الاكسبيرينسز دي او الحاجات اللي عيالنا بيتعرضوا ليها.
Okay. All right. So you're in groups for a reason, because I want you to talk to each other. انتوا كلكم بتحبوا بعض صح؟ قولوا بقى عشان ما نكسفش حد, okay? All right. So I want to ask you, this is a big part of what I do. A big part of what I do is I teach other teachers, and I work with students, I work with principals, and a big part of teaching is talking, right? So I want you to just take 2 minutes, talk to the people that you're with. What are 3 words that you think of when you hear the word immigrant? What that you think of, okay? And talk to each other. And I'm not gonna make you share out loud unless you want to, okay? يلا اتكلموا مع بعض. So I heard so many great things. One theme was marmata. I love that. Very accurate. Can someone raise their hand from each group or anybody and just share something that came up? Like to be an immigrant is to be تعبان, okay? أي حاجة. I want to hear from you. Moros. Second home. Okay, very good. Very good. مش قوي. ماشي. Okay, second home بس مش قوي. That's number 1. Okay, number 2. Yes. Challenges, absolutely. Challenges كتيرة, right? Who here experienced challenges when they immigrated? Definitely. ممكن نرفع ايدينا الاثنين. مش سهل. الموضوع مش سهل. Okay, what else? Give me a third word. Freedom and privacy. Okay, very interesting. It's very good to hear like what your friends are thinking in church, right? Like some people are like, okay, like it's very challenging. Other people are like, okay, actually in immigration, I found some freedom and privacy. I think it's so good to hear both, right? There's positives and negatives, right? So if I can talk a little bit about, because I'm a nerd. جوزي على طول بيقول لي انتي nerd, okay? يعني بحب القراية وبحب المذاكرة. I'm going to give you a history lesson for 5 seconds. So if you look at the history of schools in America, okay? When there was the biggest waves of immigration in the 1900s, It was like بتسمعوا عن like Statue of Liberty وEllis Island والإيطاليين بيجوا like you know what I'm talking about? The people who came, right? They put teachers, and they were mostly white female teachers, okay? They put teachers, and they were like, you need to teach them English. And you need to teach them to not be Italian. And you need to teach them to not be Irish. And you need to teach them basically to be American. And so there was a big history in our country of basically taking anybody that was not a specific kind of European American, and usually that was like British, okay? And you were like, you know what? We want to get the old country out of them. We don't want them to speak any other languages. We want them to speak only English. And we want them all to dress the same way. And if you look at very traditional old schools, you see everybody sitting in rows. There's one teacher in the front, وهي بقى عاملة شعر كحكة, okay? And she's wearing a dress, the neckline up to here, very traditional. And she's talking to the class, and she's expecting everyone, I'm gonna say words, and you're gonna write them. Repeat, okay? And that is the history, that's some of the history, very small history, okay, of the relationship between immigration and schools, all right? If you ask me, so I work in a school district, and I visit 10 schools in my job. If you ask me how many schools still have their classes in rows, how many do you think I'm gonna say when I do observations? 10% of schools, 50% of schools, 20% of schools. It's not zero. So I'm going to tell you, it depends on the grade, but if I am visiting the high school, I know that there might be many times where the desks are in rows, okay? If I'm in some of the younger grades, some of the elementary schools, I will see that some of the classes are in rows and some of the classes are in groups. What do you think is better for learning? Raise your hand if you think rows are better. Okay. Raise your hand if you think groups are better. What do I have you in right now? I have you in groups for a reason, okay? Rows are good for a specific kind of learning. But some of the learning that we ask kids to do in school is very well suited to doing groups and rows. So it's good to have both, okay? So I just wanted to explain this because I wanted to show you immigrants coming to this country and going to schools, it was not like, bring your differences, bring your diversity. It's so good to have different people in school. It was like, we want you all the same. We don't want you to know your language. Okay?
فالمدارس أول لما ابتدت في 1900 كان كل المهاجرين جايين من أوروبا. اللي ابتدى البلد دي طبعا كانوا إنجليز من إنجلترا. فكل الجنسيات التانية اللي جاية حتى الآيرش اللي هم جنبهم لازقة أو الإيطاليانز كانوا لما بيجوا بيقولوا عايزين رافضين خالص أي هوية هم جايين بيها أي اختلاف. وكان كل التعليم الوحيد اللي موجود مدرسة بيضة بتخش الفصل وبيقولوا لها امحي كل اللي فات، امحي هويتهم البلد اللي هم جايين منها، لازم يبقوا الاسطمبة بتاعتنا الأمريكانية ويتكلموا فقط إنجليزي. محدش كان بيعزم عليهم إنهم اختلافاتهم الحاجات بتاعتهم اللي في ثقافتهم تيجي وتخش وتبقى جزء من البلد، ده كله كان مرفوض. وبعدين ماجي اتكلمت شوية عن زياراتها في الإدارة التعليمية اللي هي بتشتغل فيها وإزاي معظمها دلوقتي متقسم مجموعات، لكن في جزء بالذات في الثانوي بيقعدوا العيال في الصفوف، وإن في مجال في أساليب التعليم إن ده ينفع وده ينفع، بس أكترية الحاجات وعشان كده هي مقعداكوا في مجموعات اللي بتبقى فيها احتكاكات أكتر أو تنمية أكتر بتبقى في المجموعات.
Thank you, Hiba. So I want to just review a couple of key terms. So a first-generation immigrant student and a second-generation immigrant student. So a first-generation student is a student whose parents were born in a different country and they came to the US and they are also born outside of the US. So like I am a first-generation immigrant because I was born in Cairo. My parents were born in Cairo, okay? Usually, this is a person who is the first person in their family to go to college in the United States. So a lot of times you will say, Oh, are you first generation? Oh, that's so amazing. So I'm first generation. I'm the first person in my family to go to college في أمريكا, okay? Second generation immigrants born in the US, ده بقى أخويا, okay? Born in the US, but they have parents who are born elsewhere. So maybe some of you were born outside of the country, but your kids were born here. They're still a second generation immigrant student, okay? Even if they're not technically an immigrant themselves. Because immigrant is like, أنا جاي مولود في حتة تانية وجاي هنا, okay? And sometimes also these kids can be the first ones in their family to go to college in the US, okay? We good? Can I keep going? Okay. All right, so these are two very cute pictures I found of people in school in Egypt, okay? I love them. For example, two very cute kids on the right-hand side, okay? And a very different kind of classroom on the left side. So I asked Samer, I didn't ask Samer, I asked my dad, and he was like, أنا مش فاكر أي حاجة, okay? So I don't know if this is accurate, but these are some pictures I found. Would you say this is accurate? Raise your hand if you think one of these is accurate. Okay, ماشي, all right. دي مدارس خاصة, دي مدارس public, okay? اللي أنا سمعته إن دلوقتي محدش بيروح المدارس البابليك وكله بالprivate tutor, صح؟ Okay, ماشي. So talk to your groups. What are some challenges that your kids face today in school as immigrants, okay? That maybe you did not have to deal with when you were growing up in Egypt. Okay, 2 minutes. All right, everyone. So, besides memorizing the Quran, what else? What are some What are some differences? Raise your hand. Yes. Okay. Okay. Okay, very good. That's good. So سمعتوا اسلوب التعليم مختلف. في مصر memorization. هنا we're talking about problems and trying to solve them. Very good. بيتعلموا ايه؟ Depends on private school and public school? Oh, okay, في مصر. Yes. Okay. Okay. Okay, very good. Language barrier. Yes, 100% language barrier. Okay, you just gave me a great transition. Thank you so much. So, a lot of times, if you're working in schools, a lot of times when you say immigrant student, there is an automatic assumption that they are an English language student. That's not true. I work with many immigrant students who are not English language learner students, okay? So these are just some terms. So some of you might have kids that are English learners. That's okay, that's fine. There's also a term we use in school called newcomers, and that is students who are in the process of learning English and they have been in the United States for less than 4 years, okay? And then LTELs, this is another term we use, just so you know, أنا عايزاكم تعرفوا terms, okay? LTELs is students in grades 6 through 12, and they've been in the US schools for more than 6 years, and they have remained at the same level of English proficiency for more than 2 years by the state's exam. So this is like أنا خلاص خلصت English language learning, and I'm at least a few years past, okay? So we talked a little bit about immigration as something that is big, right? And I will tell you this, I have a memory of when I was younger, and I watched a show called Schoolhouse Rock. Who here remembers Schoolhouse Rock? Yes. Trauma, okay? Trauma from Schoolhouse Rock. I remember there was this episode, and they called it America is a Melting Pot. Have you ever heard that term before? America is a melting pot, right? So there was this cartoon, and they would do like stories for kids, and they would say, like, they would be like the Statue of Liberty, واقفة كده لوحديها, very pretty and very cute, where all the immigrants are coming from elsewhere, and you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna put you in this pot, and you're now in a melting pot, and everybody is coming out the same. And in my mind, I was like, wow, إيه العبط ده, okay? This is not good. Like, I don't agree. My friend who is from Mexico and me from Egypt, we're not the same. And that's fine, okay? She might be Catholic, I'm Coptic, we're both different. That's fine. All of us are different, and all of us are very special in our differences, right? But there is a big history in our country of something called color blindness. So I'm gonna talk about that because it impacts what our kids are dealing with in school. Because here's the thing, when you come from a different country and you are leaving your family and you are leaving your job, okay? And my cousin is here, Mina Basturma. Hello, everyone. So when you are coming to a different country and you are leaving your family and you are leaving your job, and I know like for some of us in here, الكلية وكل اللي عملتوه في مصر اتنسى لما جيتوا هنا. طب دي حاجة سهلة ولا صعبة? Very hard, okay? And I was just talking to someone the other day who works as, I think she works as an assistant in an office, and she used to be like a big lawyer, okay? And none of her degrees and none of her credentials are operating in this country. That's not a mistake. That's not a mistake. And we can talk about that whole topic another day, but that's not a mistake that when you come to this country, like, you have to basically start over, okay? So I just for the sake of time, I'm gonna keep going because this question is a little repetitive, okay? And we kind of talked about it. So I'll talk a little bit about what to consider for school. So I will tell you this, I work in schools, I've worked in schools my whole career. I will tell you, the diversity in the school district that I work in is no longer like 95% white. The diversity of the school district I work in is now 50% white. And the other 50% is people from different places, different countries. Some of them are from here, but they're different colors of skin, people of color. It's a whole range of diversity, okay? Many of them are immigrant students. I will tell you, in the last 3 months, the district that I work for has had 78 newcomer immigrant students from different countries. That's a big number, and many of them are Egyptian, okay? Many of them are Coptic. And I basically بشتغل في المرقصية, okay? So a lot of people are coming to this country. It's a great thing. But ask me what the percentage is of teachers. Do you think the teaching force is like, you think it's like 50% diverse? 100% no, absolutely not. It's like 97% white, okay? And if you ask me the gender diversity in the elementary schools, it's like 99% white female in the elementary schools, okay? And there is a problem with that. Is there a problem with that? Yes, there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a teacher who's white. Nothing wrong with that. But there is something wrong if there is no diversity in the workforce, right? Because هم هيفهموا ازاي اللي قدامهم, right? So I'll give you an example. I was working with a parent the other day who actually happened to be Coptic in my school district. And she was saying that there were other students in the class who were asking her daughter like about Eid, but Eid like the Muslim Eid, okay? And the teacher had no idea like how to tackle that topic because the teacher didn't have an awareness of the fact that you could be from Egypt and be Coptic. Because just sort of like the stereotype is if you're from Egypt, you're probably Muslim, right? So that's just like one small example of there's a gap in understanding of people from different countries, right? Also, I remember when I was younger, and I'm gonna speak very honestly with you. So my parents, they had a pizza place, and I remember I would come home from school, and I would go to the pizza place and work with my parents, okay? Of course, I loved that. I did love that, actually. I liked spending time with my parents, but I was very tired. But so sometimes I would do my homework at the pizza place. And sometimes I would do my work late at night. But I remember there was this one time I didn't do any of my work because we didn't have Wi-Fi at the pizza place that day. I remember when I went to my teacher the next day, and if you were a teacher who had like tafahum, okay, and I told you I was at the pizza place all night with my parents, I didn't do my homework, but it's not because I'm not a good student. That's just what happened. I have to be with my parents at the pizza place. I have to help them, that's my responsibility. So one thing I'm pointing out to you is sometimes immigrant children can have responsibilities that children who are not immigrants do not have. If we're just being frank here, okay? Another thing that I used to do is I used to translate a lot of things for my parents. That is a caretaking responsibility that I had that the kids who were not immigrants in my class did not have. I still have this responsibility, actually.
I don't know where to start from.
I'm sorry, I said a lot.
No. So I think أكتر حاجة ماجي لفتت نظرنا ليها هي حتة الاختلافات ما بين عيالنا. الأول اتكلمت على can you go back to the slide? You don't? اوكي في 3 انواع من التصنيف جوه المدارس للتعليم اللغه الانجليزيه. في اللي هو الانجليش ليرنر، ودول يوجولي بقى لهم 4 سنين بيتكلموا لغه تانية في البيت. المدرسه لو بتسال الاهالي do you speak a different language في البيت بتتكلموا لغه تانية بيعتبروهم انجليش ليرنرز، ودول يوجولي بقى لهم اقل من 4 سنين هنا. وبعدين في النيو كومرز اوكي اوكي يا الحاجه الرئيسيه، ففي 3 انواع، بس الحاجه الرئيسيه اللي هي فارقه مع ماجي قوي ازاي معظم المدرسين في ابتدائي ستات، بالذات في المرحله الابتدائيه ستات وستات بيض. مفيش اي نوع من التنوع بالنسبه للتلامذه. فالتلامذه 50% دلوقتي من اللي موجودين في المدرسه من جنسيات مختلفه او من اصل جنسيات مختلفه ومهاجرين. وفي طبعا اطفال لون جلدهم مختلف او كل اشكال التنوع، لكن ده مش ظاهر في المدرسين. مفيش اي مشكله ان المدرسين يبقوا بيض، لكن بيبقى في عدم تفاهم لان التجربه الشخصيه بتاعه المدرس او المدرسه اللي طالع في البيئه الامريكانيه دي وما احتكش بناس كتير، بيبقى في عدم تفاهم لظروف الناس المهاجرين. من ضمن الحاجات اللي مش بيفهموها هي ادوار ان العيال كتير قوي بيكونوا بيساعدوا اهاليهم، مش بس في العمل بظروف العمل المختلفه، لكن كمان في الترجمه او اعباء في الاسره انهم ياخدوا بالهم من عيالهم عشان الاهل بيشتغلوا او حاجات شبه كده. فبيبقى في عدم تفاهم للظروف بتاعه الطلبه.
One more thing I want to tell you, and this is, I think, if you've been falling asleep until now, maybe you'll wake up a little bit, but hopefully you're not asleep. There is something called like color blindness in schools. It's about the color of your skin, Okay? So sometimes I'll work with teachers and they'll say like, I don't see color. Okay, you don't see color, but it's there, okay? You don't see color, but it's there. And difference is something that impacts students every day. And so it's really important to see that. And that's something like, in schools, it's very pervasive, like it's very common, okay? So sometimes if you'll go to a teacher and you'll say, I just want you to know, like, my child is gonna grow up differently than maybe you. They might say, I don't see any difference. Okay, like they want to tell, it's coming from a good place. They want to tell you like, I don't see a difference in your child, but there is a difference. Like we're all different, you know? Even people who are not immigrants and are white, two white people are not the same. Maybe somebody grew up in Lawrence, Massachusetts, and somebody grew up in Natick, Massachusetts. Maybe somebody has special needs, like special education. Maybe someone doesn't. Like some things you can't see, right? Like we are all living differently, but it's important that we acknowledge that we have differences and that our kids are living life differently than maybe other kids, okay? And this is the part that is this is why I'm doing this talk. If you just want to pick one slide, this is why I'm doing this talk. So, and by the way, everything I want to tell you, everything I've told you today is not Maggie's opinion. I mean, it is my opinion now because it's based on research. But everything I'm sharing with you is based on research, okay? This is not like Dara'i Maggie, okay? There was a study done, it was a mixed method study. So they looked at data by numbers and they looked at like focus groups and interviews. And they looked at immigrant students coming into the United States and they looked at them over a long period of time. And they analyzed a teacher's view of that kid's potential. And this is ever since I read this study, I've never forgotten this study, okay? 96% of the parents of those kids, if you ask them, do you think your child could do well? 96% of the parents said yes. 18% of the teachers said yes. So just look at that difference. When you had teachers and parents and you asked them, who do you think is gonna do well? Look at these immigrant students. And many of them started as English language learners. How much of the percent do you think said, I think these immigrant students are gonna go far? I think they're gonna do so well, okay? Compared to 96% of the parents, only 18% of the teachers said this. That is a very big difference. And why does that matter, right? I'm gonna take questions at the end, I'm sorry. Why does that matter? And this comes from a study from 2015, and I have the name of the study at the bottom if you would like to read more from this study, okay? Teachers can actually act as something called a gatekeeper. So when I was a high school teacher, whenever you were done with a course, you would say like, okay, who's am I gonna recommend for AP? You know AP? Okay. And it would be based on like three things. It would be based on the grades. It would be based on their current, like not just like their current grade, but like past performance. I would look at like, how did they do in honors English in 9th grade? How did they do in honors English in 10th grade? How did they do in honors English in 11th grade? Okay, what are their grades? What is their work ethic? And then I have to make a recommendation. Do you think my brain has no part to play in that? It's not just grades. If you only have 20 spots for AP English, and your brain is already ready to look at a specific group of kids as not doing well, and that perception is playing in your mind, do you think that makes a difference for who is gonna get into AP? Okay, so it does. And there are many studies that show this, but I am actually one of those kids. So I'm now getting my doctorate in education, so يعني مش عبيطة, okay? However, when I was applying for AP English, my teacher said, you are fine where you are, because I had an A- in honors English. Are there other kids who had an A- in honors English who got into AP? Absolutely. Were they Egyptian? No, they were not. I'm not telling you like 1 + 1 = 2. I'm not telling you that your kids being Egyptian or Coptic or immigrants means they're not gonna go to AP. But I'm telling you, this information is power. Like, I want you to know this, because I want you to know that there are many things that people think about in their perception of our kids. And it's very important for you to know this so you can be an empowered parent, okay? are you ready to fight? I feel like أنا عمالة أحضركم للخناقة. Okay. So, do you need translation of that, or can I keep going? Keep going. Okay, Mesh. All right. So there is something called like the immigrant bargain, right? So my parents came to this country and left their jobs so I could do well here, right? So that's just something we don't talk about a lot, is like sometimes احنا بنقول like, okay, I was an electrical engineer, I was a lawyer, بس أنا هروح أمريكا عشان عيالي يبقى عندهم opportunities. Right? So sometimes that's something that can actually affect the social emotional learning of our kid, okay? Because I'll tell you something. When I was growing up, I always knew like mama or baba gayin hina, so me and Mark can do well, okay? It did not count for the fact that some things were still hard for me in school. So I had hope and I had optimism, but bardu like I didn't have a lot of other things, right? So for example, when I did the college applications and I was doing my financial aid form, my parents didn't do the financial aid form. My parents didn't go to college in America. By the way, I love my parents so much. انتوا بتشوفوا معايا كل يوم حد, like I love them so much, okay? وهم بيفرجوا عليا دلوقتي على فكرة. So أنا مش بشتم في أي حد, and I love my parents so much, okay? I'm just telling you, في حاجات مثلا التلاميذ اللي معايا في المدرسة كانوا مامتهم وباباهم بيحضروهم. يعني they're preparing them, and I didn't have that. So that's a gap in education, right? So, and our kids kind of have like a sense of duty. They have a sense of duty. They feel like, okay, like my parents came here, so like I want to do something for them, okay? And all of this like also doesn't take into account. So I honestly, I cannot tell you how many times people come to me and they say, Maggie, you gave that great talk in March, but my kids don't want to speak Arabic at home at all. My kids don't want to acknowledge the fact that they're Egyptian. My kids don't want to acknowledge the fact that they're Coptic, okay? That's very heartbreaking for me and also not surprising because they want to fit in. Right? Like they want to fit in, like it's peer pressure. They don't want to go to school and be like, hey, I'm different, okay? They want to go to school and be like, hey, hi, Abuna. They want to go to school and be like, hey, I'm just like everybody else, right? And sometimes it's hard to say like, okay, like I'm going to be a little bit different. Okay, do you want to translate? Do you want to start with the bias of teachers?
Teacher color blindness and like really quick. Okay. ماجي عايزة تقويكم وتعرفكم إن كتير من الأبحاث اللي بصت على الأولاد على مدار سنين طويلة جدا، مش بس على أرقام أو داتا لكن بيانات يعني، لكن كمان لما سألوا الأهالي وسألوا المدرسين، المدرسين بيقولوا إحنا ما بنشوفش اختلافات بين الأولاد، ما عندناش تحيز، ده أبيض ده أسود، ده جاي من مصر ده جاي من أمريكا، والنية بتكون من بره كويسة، لكن الحقيقة عدم التحيز ده برضو وراه نقد في الأبحاث، لأن لما بصوا على الأبحاث كانوا بيسألوا الأهل انتوا شايفين ان عيالكم يقدروا ينجحوا في البلد دي ولا لأ؟ المعظم 96% قالوا المدرسين 18% بصوا على العيال اللي جاية جديد اللي هم المهاجرين وقالوا 18% بس هينجحوا. يعني الفرق حوالي حاجة و70% شايفين ان ال70 اللي في النص دول ملهمش نجاح او مش كويسين. فده يبين ان في تحيز رغم النية الظاهرية. ماجي كمان حكت ان ساعات التحيز ده بيبقى في اختيار مين ياخد المواد اللي بتؤهل اكتر لدخول الجامعة، فبتمكنكم انكم دايما تبقوا حاطين الحكاية دي، مش ان نية المدرس وحشة، بس ان كل واحد فينا جواه تحيز، والتحيز جوه المدرسين لانهم ما يعرفوناش وما يعرفوش ان الاهالي المهاجره اللي دفعت ثمن كبير انها تخلت عن مستقبلها من اجل نجاح عيالها، بيحفز العيال اكتر انها تزق نفسها، وبيبقى في جوه الطفل او الطفله حافز انهم يوصلوا، لان الاهل طول النهار يا حبيبي انا دفعت ثمن ده، يا بابا احنا سيبنا بلدنا عشانك، فبيبقى جواهم تحفز. في نفس الوقت على الناحيه الثانيه من الميزان لازم تبقوا مدركين ان ولادكم، لان انتوا مش فاهمين قوي النظام او في ناس مش بتبقى فاهمه قوي النظام، مش بنبقى قادرين نلقم عيالنا كل مراحل التعليم او نساندهم في الحاجات الكبيره اللي ليها دعوه بمراحل التقديم التعليميه او تقديم الجامعه. فده جزء هم لازم يكبروه لوحدهم، فده بيحط عبء عليهم نفسي برضو.
I just want to correct one thing that Hiba said. So, no, Hiba, you were amazing. Hiba's wonderful. One great thing is kids don't have to do it alone anymore. So the wonderful thing is now we have so many programs here. Abuna Mark, okay? We do a lot of programs for college application prep, learning about the financial aid process and all of that stuff. We do it here, but they also do it in schools now. And they're very much more aware now that parents and specific kinds of parents from all different walks of life will need unique support. So I'll give you an example. In the district that I work in, we just had a session on college prep, and we translated the session into 43 different languages. Okay? So that's just one example, and your school district definitely has that too. Okay? So I've given you a lot of depressing information, of course. This is my prerogative, okay? I didn't mean to. I really am telling you this because I really want you to be empowered and feel strong as parents, because you are all amazing people, okay? I want you to name it. I'm gonna give you a small example of how I named it for Alexandria, my daughter, 3 days ago, okay? Juju, Juju. This is my cousin, and this is basically my nephew, okay? Hi, Juju. So Alexandria a few days ago came home, and she was like, Mama, you know I don't speak Arabic at school. And it was like the first time she said that. I know you don't speak Arabic at school, but like what is the point of bringing this up? And so I was just like I thought about the fact that like my parents and Samer's my husband, Samer's parents, they speak Arabic to her because they do the pick up and drop off. They bring her home. ما بيتكلموش إلا عربي، ودي حاجة جميلة جدا عندي على فكرة. Okay? I love that they only speak Arabic to my kids. But I realized like she's always thinking at 5, which language and which culture am I gonna do now? So this is called code switching. The amount of cognitive ability that you need to code switch is huge. But my daughter does it at 5, and so do your kids. They go to school, and they are American, and they speak English, and they do all those things, and then they go home, and they're Egyptian, and they're Coptic, and they're Christian, and they code switch all day long. That's a big deal. Like, we don't talk about that. We don't talk about how that's actually kind of tiring. It's tiring for me to code switch between, like, being a mom and working at a school, between going to church and going home. Like, that's all kind of code switching too, but to code switch your language and your ethnicity, that's huge. So my response to her was, Alexandria, it's kind of funny sometimes how we can speak a lot of Arabic at home, but we don't speak a lot of Arabic at school, right? I just said that, that's all. And like, her face was like I don't want to say like it was a miracle, but like, she was like, oh, like I can say that this is hard. And that's what I think is the biggest tool. So if your kids come home and they say like, I don't really want to fast. Like, I don't want to bring fasting food. This is like my favorite stereotypical example. I don't want to bring food to the cafeteria, okay? And honestly, it's a stereotype that was true for me. My mom used to make me full sandwiches for Siam, okay? It just like, it's not just, مش عايزة أصوم because I want to eat lahma. It's also like, I'm switching always between being American, between being a student, being around people who are maybe not Egyptian, not Coptic, not Christian, and then going home and being Egyptian and being Coptic and being Christian, and maybe even being mom and dad's translator, and maybe even like helping mom and dad with important things, and all at a very young age. So all of that, like, we have to think about that. I'm not saying like عيالنا بتتعذب, okay? But I'm saying it's a thing. We don't want to say it's a thing, but it is a thing. It is a unique challenge. I will tell you, it's a challenge that's actually a gift. Because for me, like, I'm bilingual, and that helps me get a job. That helps me understand different kids that I work with at schools. That helps me want to talk to you about this, right? So it's a gift, but it's a challenge. And it can be both, right? Raise your hand if you think it can be both. It's a gift and a challenge. Okay, great. Thank you. Conflict. It's a conflict. That's right. So validate, meaning like if they come to you and they say ما فيش أي حد في الفصل مصري or ما فيش أي حد في الفصل صايم أو كلهم في الفصل بتاعي white. ما تقولهمش اوكي احنا كلنا زي بعض. اوكي احنا كلنا زي بعض من جوه, but it's okay to say اكيد دي حاجة صعبة. This is hard. أنا عارفة إن ده صعب. And you can even say to them أنا ساعات لما بروح الشغل أنا بابا الوحيدة المصرية or أنا بابا الوحيدة المسيحية. Like you can say it and they might appreciate it. They might say like, oh wow, like I'm not alone. Like أنا مش لوحدي. Okay? It's okay to say that. And ask for more. So this is the one where I'm like, I'm giving you some tricks here. So if you ask Tina, I'm going to call on you, Tina, for a second. So sometimes my friends ask me questions about schools. And I like to give them the secret weapons, okay? So sometimes Tina the other day was asking me a question about the gifted and talented program in her school district. Sorry, Tina, I'm gonna put you on the spot, okay? So it's like the honors program, like the advanced program in her school district. And she was asking me like, what's the deal with this, okay? And I was like, let me tell you some things that you can say to the director of the gifted and talented program that I think will help you, okay? And hopefully it helps. If it gets you in trouble, ma marafkish, okay? But ask for more. Like when you're in doubt, ask for more. So let's say, for example, your child does not get accepted into AP. That's just one small example. I want you to ask for the review process. Ask for the review process. If you don't like the review process, ask for a meeting with the principal. If you don't like the meeting with the principal, ask for the meeting of the assistant superintendent. If you don't like that, ask for a meeting with the superintendent. Okay? Ask other parents. Don't just say it, because I think a lot of times with us, especially my parents when I was growing up, we're so like thankful, and it's good to be thankful, but it's also good to want more for your kids. So ask for more. Okay? And if you need help, you call me. Okay? And I know a lot of times we talk about some of the challenges in our schools that we don't like, but actually something that our schools are doing okay is they are trying to acknowledge the struggles of immigrant students. So for example, I have a group that I meet with every month in my school district called the LPAC, which is the English Language Learners Parent Advisory Council. Last month, I had 79 parents come to that meeting, okay? From all different countries. I had parents from China, I had parents from Russia, I had parents from Saudi Arabia, I had parents from Egypt, parents from everywhere, okay? And they're coming and they're trying to learn more about the school, and I'm giving them information. I also give them pizza, okay? Your school district probably has something called an LPAC. That's now like a state requirement. So if you want more information, you can go to your district LPAC, ELPAC, okay? And if your school district, if you can't find the information about that, ask your school principal, okay? So just to recap, are you asleep? Was I boring? Oh, thank God. Okay. We wanted to talk about how our children's identities impact their experience in school. And we wanted some strategies that empower us. Do you feel more like Akwiya or... Okay, go like this. Okay, all right. I'm gonna ask Hiba to recap, and then because we're out of time, I'm gonna stay for like 2 minutes after to take some questions, okay? All right, but I'm gonna let you all go because your kids are coming in, okay?
Take questions for the kids. Recap about what schools are offering. Like the last slide.
You can do this.
Validate. Okay. الحاجة اللي في ايدينا نعملها والفكرة بتاعت ان انتوا تبقوا متقويين وعارفين ان عندكم حقوق وعارفين حاجات كتيرة. اول حاجة انكم تسموا او تدوا مساحة لأولادكم انهم لما يبقى في حاجة صعبة بسبب ان هم مهاجرين او بسبب ان هم بيضطروا يعملوا حكاية يفصلوا من انهم في البيت بالعربي بطريقة معينة بأكل معين، وبعدين بيروحوا المدرسة يبقوا بشكل تاني محاطين بأولاد مختلفة بكل الحاجات دي. فالاختلاف ما بين رايح راجع ده حاجة صعبة. ادوا مساحة للأولاد لما يجوا يشتكوا او لما حتى يرمولكوا كلمة من تحت لتحت ما يبقاش عادي، استحملوا، اعملوا، ادوهم مساحة يعبروا، وفي نفس الوقت ممكن انتوا كمان تقولوا احساسكم الحقيقي عن الموضوع. ايوه صعب، انا في الشغل عندي صعب، او انا اول ما جيت كانت حاجه مش سهله عليا. ادوهم مساحه انهم يقدروا يحسوا بالمشاعر دي لانها فعلا حاجه صعبه جدا. الحاجه التانية، دايما اسالوا الولاد او افتحوا معاهم حوار، او في المدرسه بنفس الاسلوب، انكم تعرفوا معلومات اكتر. يعني لو الولاد فتحوا موضوع استدرجوهم انكم تعرفوا منهم معلومات اكتر، ليه احساسهم كده، ليه بيقولوا كده. الحاجة التانية في المدرسة في نفس الوقت، لو انتوا اتقال لكم معلومة وانتوا مش عارفين ليه دي اتطبقت او اشمعنى بنتي حصل لها كده وابني حصل له كده، اسألوا وافضلوا اعلوا في السؤال، وده حقكم، دي مش حاجة بره حقوقكم، دي حقوقكم وحاجة عادية خالص. الحاجة الأخيرة هي اوكي، المدارس كلها دلوقتي عندها وعي اكتر بكتير جدا من زمان لاختلاف الجنسيات اللي موجوده فيها، واختلاف درجات تعلم اللغه الانجليزيه واحتياجات الاسر المهاجره. فدايما اسالوا اذا كان في مؤسسه او مجموعه من الاهالي بتجتمع عشان تفسر الحاجات دي. ماجي ادت مثال للغه الانجليزيه، الاهالي بتاعه الاطفال اللي بتتعلم لغه انجليزيه، في برضو السي باك it's like that. في برضو مؤسسة تانية للعيال اللي عندها صعوبات تعلم، برضو بيجتمعوا ودايما عندهم معلومات مفيدة جدا لو حد من عياله عنده IEP أو غيره. ففي حاجات كتيرة جدا جدا متاحة ومعلومات كتيرة واجتماعات ممكن تروحوا، ناس ممكن تساعدكم. وبعدين ماجي عزمت بمعلوماتها وإمكانياتها وكل الخبرة اللي عندها، فاستغلوها يا جدعان، ده من عندي أنا الإعلان ده.
أنا فهمت اللي هي قالته في الآخر بس ما تسمعوش كلامها. Okay. Okay. All right. So I want to thank you all. I know we're out of time. The kids are here, and we don't want to say so many compliments about them in front of them. طبعا. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for listening, and thank you for having me. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you for such a أنا لحقت آخر 15 minutes. بس amazing، يعني حاجات very very important إن احنا نعرفها ون pay attention ليها يعني. ولو حد عنده سؤال شخصي يعني we have a group of يعني خدام they can give you يعني a direct advice على اللي عندك. If you have يعني a particular issue, come and ask and see what can I do about this, or what can I say to my child about this. So it's good ان انتوا يعني individualize it. هي بس دي معلومات عامة تنفع للكل، بس I'm sure في أسئلة خاصة يعني. دلوقتي بس مش هياكلوا الحاجات دي هما. بصوا احنا عايزينكم توعدونا. ده فطاري صح؟ مش هتلمسوه بالكافي الصبح، بكره الصبح انسوه، لان صعب قوي تبص عليه تقول طب ادب 2 في الكافي ولا حاجه، بلاش. لا مفيش حل. وحتى الشوكليت شيلوه بعد الناتيفيتي فيست وطلعوه للولاد. فممكن كل فاميلي هنوزع لكم هدايا كريسماس طبعا. يعني كل كيس فيه ايه؟ 2، كل كيس فيه مخدتين للكريسماس عشان الكريسماس سيزن. بس دي مش مخدات نوم، دي بتاعت الانتريه صح؟ ماشي. طيب هنعملها ازاي؟ يجوا ياخدوا كل فاميلي واحدة وواحدة صح؟ كل فاميلي واحدة وواحدة. فممكن تيجوا بليز، ولا نصلي الأول؟ تعالوا نصلي الأول. بسم الآب والابن والروح القدس السلام واحد امين. اجعلنا يا رب مستحقين. أبانا الذي في السماوات يتقدس اسمك، تكن مشيئتك كما في السماء كذلك على الأرض. خبزنا للغد أعطينا اليوم، اغفر لنا ذنوبنا كما نغفر نحن أيضا للمذنبين إلينا، ولا تدخلنا في تجربة لكن نجينا من الشرير. بالمسيح يسوع ربنا أن لك الملك والقوة والمجد للأبد أمين. محبة الله الآب ونعمة ابنه الوحيد ربنا وإلهنا ومخلصنا يسوع المسيح، شركة موهبة عطية الروح القدس تكون مع جميعكم. امضوا بالسلام، سلام الرب يكون معكم. ممكن تيجوا كده family بفاميلي، يعني one per family. Kids I want the family, the parents to come. I want the parents to come.